I have a goal that in the next 2 years, God will help me, to help about probably about 500 people, you know, fulfill their dream and legacy of writing a book. Um, you can imagine, what would have happened if Miles Monroe of blessed memory just went to the grave without writing a book. You know, Miles Monroe said that anyone that is not able to write a book, has robbed his or her generation. You know, very strong words, but also very instructive. Very instructive. So we'll listen to Salome from Ife. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Um, I'm encouraged already with the video,
Okay.
and I I have like 4 books that I have started, but I've
Wow.
not. Yes, one has actually been turned to animations already. How Etiquette Saves the Snaggletooth Shark. All the characters are sharks. Any
Wow.
parent sees it and they want it for their children. The adverts, even just the title, they're already asking. But
Wow.
then it got stuck with the designer, and till now I don't have it yet. And
Wow.
3 others, the one I'm doing right now is for an online course that I'm hoping to start by next month for parents on homeschooling.
Wow.
I've started it, but I've not gone so far in that. So the 4 of them are just staring me in the face, and I know that with this push, with this encouragement, I would go a long way faster.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Awesome. Awesome. Congratulations. So
Thank you, sir.
I'm in the midst of authors now. You know, as we start this session, that you'll get to a place where you know one of the modules we're going to begin to refer to ourselves as authors. Miles Monroe said that before he writes his next book, he will sensitize his friends and even his publishers, that his next book is coming out, and his publishers will just hold on to what he has said, and they begin to build up the momentum, and even before the book comes out, um, is able to get pre-orders. People are able to. He said, sometimes people would have paid for 60% of what he needs, and so the publishers will now have to source for the remaining 40%. Very instructive. I just want to share the story of a friend of mine who came to my office about 2 years ago. Very brilliant English graduate, married with children. Where he came, and he was very emotional. And I said, what's happening? He said, I can't even pay his children's school fees. He's not been able to meet his obligation, and so on and so forth. And I said, but you have something in your hands. You speak well. I mean, what is your gift? He said he loves writing. He loves, and he can, I mean, that is his passion. That he writes in Business Day. I said, I said, that is it. Do you know that you can write a book? Just bring everything that you've written, bring it together, and let me go through it. And the following week, he was able to send me, a draft. And to the glory of God, do you know that after about 2 months, uh, he was able to come up with his own book, and he was just sharing about, his experience of growing up. I mean, how his dad brought him up as a disciplinarian, values, and so on and so forth. And as we speak right now, he has even finished the second book, and he has become a changed person. Even at the book launch, I was there, at the University of Lagos, and on that day, I could see his wife was so happy. I mean, people came, from far and wide in his family. They came to celebrate him, and I just thank God for the privilege. So I'm trusting that those of us that are on this call, we might not be 100, but God is about to start something very powerful. And by the special grace of when you are launching your book, You know, I'm trusting that this, social distancing would have ended, but nevertheless, you know, you're going to begin to bring smiles to people's faces, and I'm just so excited. Finally, we have someone who is not, is somebody on the other side. He's a publisher, so but he's joining us on this call because he'll be playing also an important role to help us bring to birth. Even after writing your book, he would help us, assist us, in speaking and sharing with us the strategies that we can use to take it from conception to reality. So I want Mr. Abimbola David to speak to us for 1 or 2 minutes before I dive in. Can you unmute yourself? Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay.
Yeah, thank God for the opportunity to put down your thoughts and then to get your book out and leave a legacy. I want to encourage everyone here. You have written a book or you still want to, very good thing. It's worthy of, it's a cause that is worthy of following. Now, let me just share briefly about how I got into ebook publishing. I worked in a seminary, lectured there, and West Africa Theological Seminary, owned by an American. So he called me to get closer to him and work with him personally as his personal assistant after I resigned from the seminary. One day he just called me up that God told him now that he's like 72 years old, that the next phase of his life now until he dies, that God wants him to write books so that he can put down his thoughts and what the seminary is all about to affect his generation. I said, fine. So he wrote the first book, second book, third book. I've been going back and forth with this publisher. That one day he called me and said, Abimbola, you are putting my book online. I said, well, put books online. I said, then go and look. You are my PA. That's what PAs do. You have to put my books online. So I just took the challenge that, well, okay, if I'm going to still be his PA and I have to do something. And I just went into research for months. And lo and behold, I put his first book, second book. Now I have 16 of his books put online.
Wow.
And in the process, I've worked for like close to 30 authors that have put their books online. At least a lot of them have like 4 or 5 books. And I have the links, and it's now, it's very interesting now that, sometimes I just, as this meeting was going on now, I was thinking to myself that I put books online for people. I lecture, I taught music for 7 years. So I think I need to write something else. So if I put other people's books online, I need to put my book online too. So thank you for
so you don't have a book yet?
Yes, I don't have a book that is published, but I have a lot of things I've written. Different things I've written on different topics.
Don't worry, even during this session, your book must come out.
Wow. Yeah.
I believe that this is a divine arrangement. I don't take it lightly,
Yeah.
Because, the Bible says that God uses the foolish things of this world to confound the wise. If you can help your boss, to publish 16 books, and he's not a university professor, and you are a part of it, then you must also, even if your book is 1 chapter,
Wow.
honestly, it's instructive. When you look at this gentleman, Stephen King, if we decide to talk about him, we might spend the whole day, but because we have limited time. But what also is also very important, even as we set about, because some people don't even understand why they are writing books. They just think it's also a commercial venture, it's beyond, it's about legacy. Your book will get into places where you can't get to. It will get into people's bedrooms, you will get into their offices, they will pass it. I mean, like Miles Monroe, he said a book, if somebody buys 1 book, he gets into the average of 7 hands, and you can now imagine. So the book itself has, it has legs, and this gentleman, Stephen King, 350 million copies of his books have been sold, 350 million. And he has now turned into movies, it's turned into book, all manners of things, and it's very powerful. Okay, so right away we'll go into the slides so that we'll get the benefit of why we're here. Okay, so I'm just going to share my slide, and I'll take us through. Okay. How to make a fortune by becoming an author. Obviously, we're not just talking about only living a legacy, but also making some income for ourselves. My story, I'd just like to share my own story. What you see here is my first book that was written about 10 years ago, or 11 years ago. I was 40 years old, then. And when I was going to be 40, I began to think that what's the legacy that I'm going to, I mean, I've done well. I mean, gone to, gotten married, just made some, worked in the banking industry. And I just all of a sudden, there was my neighbor next door, and he had a young guy working for him. And I just, by chance, met the young man. And the young man began to challenge me. He said, what do you do? I said, I'm a management consultant. He said, wow, okay, that's great. He said, have you written any book? I said, no. What do I have? I mean, I don't have time for books. He said, how can you say you don't have time for books? And you have been reading other people's books. Well, you must write your own book. Just like Miles Monroe, he said he used to talk about relationships. And so he went to speak at a seminar, and a young man came to meet him and said, look, you need to write a book. And he was so upset to the young man. He said, that's not his focus. Eventually, that young man encouraged him, and he was able to write his first book. That the foreword was done by Oral Roberts. And that book sold 500,000 copies. So this book that you see me holding was launched and published, about 11 years ago. And quite a number of people came. I mean, we did it in Victoria Island at the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs. And to my right there is the former deputy governor of Delta State, Professor S.A.N. Otuama, who used to be one of my dad's mentees in the university. And it was such a glorious day for me. And to his right, there's a gentleman there, the former chairman of Access Bank, Gbenga Oyebode. You might not be able to see him properly. I also had my lecturer, who is now the Deputy Vice Chancellor of University of Lagos, Professor Ben Ogojafo, was there. I also had one of my lecturers, Professor Molewa. Quite a number of people came from far and wide. And as I sat down, I began to look at myself. I said, with all my stories of failure, so I can command people, God can use me to bring people together. And they began to talk about the book, customer retention. There's such a, a powerful book. That's what they need in the industry, and so on and so forth. And when I cast my mind back onto how the young man that I met, was able to encourage me to write a book. And thank God that I did not even, just dismiss his counsel. And that was the beginning of journey for me and see where it has led to, you know, having to call people from different parts of Nigeria together to also fulfill their own vision to the glory of God. Somebody from Akwa Ibom, somebody from Jos, somebody from Ile-Ife, somebody from Lagos here, you know, different walks of life. And do you know that on that day, you know, by the time we finished, it wasn't just launch, but even financially, I was able to make almost about 3 million naira. This is about 11 years ago. I mean, in donations that came from people to the glory of God. So later on, I decided after that session, I said to myself, it's like a setup. What is now going to happen to me? You know, a few years from now, you know, probably I've pushed myself into a place where I might not be able to sustain this. But you know, when God starts a thing, He knows how to continue it. So it led me to write the second edition, which is what I'm holding in my hand. And this was when I took it to Latana Bookshop. That's in DI. I placed it there. And so from somebody that had failed woefully in school, that had become like a liability, now writing a book, and I placed it amongst books, you know, written by, you know, top people from all over the world. It was such an honor and a privilege, you know, also seeing myself. This is the third edition that I wrote of this same customer retention. You know, it's on Amazon now. And to the glory of God, you know, it has helped to position me as, you know, an expert in this area, to the glory of God. So I want to let us know that you are not just writing because you want to make money, but it's also to give you credibility. It's also to give you a voice, you know, in the industry, wherever you're operating in, and even amongst your family, and also to establish your legacy, you know. And this is the second book that I came up with, you know, practical selling skills. As a matter of fact, this book is now being remodeled by the publisher that I just spoken, Mr. David. So I'm hoping that by next week, another version is going to come out. He's working on I would say my third book now, you know, the glory of God is going to be coming out, you know, online. So this one was written about, is it 8 years ago? This is, you might not be able to see this properly. This is a commendation letter written by the chairman of, sorry, not the chairman, the MD of Keystone Bank. I was able to, I gave them some copies of my book when the new management took over about 3 years ago, that they should use it for, because they were, you know, the slogan was about the customer. So the customer retention book, I sent a few copies to them. And what it said, you might not be able to see it legibly. It said that I wish to thank you for the commendation regarding our strategic focus and the complimentary copy of your book sent to me. It was quite thoughtful of you, and the gesture is well appreciated. So, you know, you can see the power of a book, you know, what a book can do. Now, you also have a photo here. I'm sure you will know Domino's Pizza, Eat and Go. I was, you know, going through LinkedIn a few, maybe about 2 years ago, and I saw a gentleman complaining on LinkedIn that he went into one of their stores and he wanted ice cream, but the scoop was too small and the staff was not smiling and so on and so forth. So my wife told me that, you know, why don't I just write, you know, and follow the thread. And, you know, by the time I wrote, the gentleman said, I told the gentleman that probably the staff was, you know, he was having a challenge, and he should have told the staff that, you know, asked him what was wrong with him. He said, no, it's none of his business. If his staff has a problem, you know, they shouldn't even allow him to work. So what did I do? I was led to send my book to the management of Domino's, Eat and Go, and they invited me to come and speak in their Lagos office. I did a free session. I took my books there. They bought my books, and subsequently they invited me to the Abuja office, and I did 2 free sessions for them. Then about 2 months later, they now invited me, and I trained 1,000 of their staff just from that book, just from the fact that I sent the book to the organization, so had that, the door just opened, the door opened, so as a result of that book, it has given me access, to, you can see a copy of the book is on, 2 copies of the book is on the table there. And what I also do, just like I learned from Miles Monroe, before he speaks in a place, he will first introduce himself, then his books, some copies that he has. And oftentimes, when I go and speak all over, Nigeria, whether it's in Abuja, whether it's in Jos, whether it's in Akwa Ibom, whether it's in Ibadan, I take my books with me, and some people, many years after I've spoken, maybe I bump into them, so, oh, I remember your book. Oh, thank you. Thank God. God used you, and, sometimes I become so emotional. I say, wow, that just a book, what a book can do, it transforms lives. So being an